What is up, Packers fans? Happy Saturday. Happy November 1st. Welcome into an all new episode of the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. You can find the podcast at Pack a Day Podcast. Thanks so much for joining me today. We have a fun one. There's nothing quite like the conversation of trades. It just always generates a little bit more buzz, a little bit more excitement. Anytime you see Schefter or Rappaport or anyone tweet that there's been a trade, or if it's an NBA or any MLB, no matter what, you just get a little bit of that dopamine hit of like, oh, who was it? Who got traded? What was the terms and conditions? What we look at all of that, right? So it's always a little bit fun to go over. Today, we're going to be looking at the trade deadline for Green Bay. I figured this is probably our best time. Tomorrow's pregame. Monday's going to be postgame. And then, Tuesday we'll be right back in the thick of things like normal. So I figured today we'd take the time to go over the trade possibilities for Green Bay. This is going to be basically your trade deadline primer. So we'll get to all of it in just a moment. Before we get there, shout out to our brand new Pack a Day Podcast YouTube members, Michael Haven, William James, Weston Morgan, William Durfee, William Craig, and Mateus Margado. Thank you guys so much for signing up. A really great time to sign up right now. Ross Uglum has 3 members videos out there for you. Aaron Nagler and I, members video breaking down Packers Panthers. And of course, you get that members Q&A every single week as well. So again, really good time to sign up right now. Before we also, again, get to the trades, we've got some injury report updates as well. Final injury report for Green Bay. Out for this game, LVN, Dontavian Wicks, and Nick Niemann. Questionable, Quay Walker and Brandon McManus. Brandon McManus did participate in full the last 2 days. So while there's no longer a probable designation, the fact that McManus kicked a week ago and participated in full these last 2 days, I would basically put him as probable. And then Quay Walker did practice limited on Friday. We'll see if he's able to go. It's a calf injury. This is probably a true questionable. One of the big things that we can kind of keep an eye out for is the call-ups on Saturday. More on that in just a moment. But of course, we knew LVN, Wicks, and Neiman were going to be out of this game. But that does leave you potentially thin at linebacker. Nick Niemann is out, and Quay Walker is questionable. Now, as far as moves on Saturday goes, Nick Niemann could very well be placed on IR. I would kind of expect it, and I think that they would call somebody up to the active roster. The 2 names to watch there, Christian Welch, who is kind of a, obvious Neiman replacement, linebacker / special teams ace. But Aaron Mosby could also be in that role. Now, Mosby's been activated twice. He has 1 more game day elevation left, so they could do that as well. I'm kind of expecting that Neiman goes on IR, Christian Welch gets pulled up, and then Mosby gets his last activation. But they could put Mosby on the 53 and then elevate one of the linebackers, either Christian Welch or Jamon Johnson, as that option as well. We'll kind of keep an eye on it. If there are no linebacker elevations, that should tell you that Quay Walker is good to go. Even if there's one, it could just be a Nick Niemann replacement. So we'll have to kind of keep an eye on it as Saturday rolls along and we get those official game day call-ups, or I guess game before or day before game day call-ups, I should say. But yeah, definitely a decent amount to keep an eye on with some roster gymnastics from Brian Gutekunst and company on Saturday, and specifically looking at Jamin Johnson, Christian Welch, and Aaron Mosby as players who could be elevated or signed to the active roster, depending, again, if they do open that spot by putting Nick Niemann on injured reserve. All right, let's get to our main topic right away. Trade deadline. Like I said, fun topic of discussion. The very first thing I want to go over, and I apologize to those of you who have been with me in Q&As as I've explained this. A lot of people are asking, who could the Packers trade away? Could they trade away Romeo Doubs? Could they trade away an offensive lineman? Could they trade away Dontavian Wicks? Could they trade away a player from a position of strength in order to get a corner or a defensive tackle or things like that? The first thing I want to say here before we get into anything else is I have no desire to see this team trade away any depth or any talent whatsoever. This is a team that is competing, or at least trying to compete, for a Super Bowl, that is competing for playoffs and beyond. You're going to need as much depth as possible throughout the course of this season. It might look like you have strength in numbers at one position right now. Maybe a Kingsley and Igbare could look like somebody that would be expendable, or at least once LVN came back, right? Or maybe one of the receivers if everyone was healthy. But the truth is, Watson just came back from injury. Dontavian Wicks is out right now. We don't know when he's coming back. And we have no real idea when Jaden Reed is coming back either. Likely December at some point, but there could be injuries between now and then when you get some of those players back. Defensive end, Enigbare, maybe, right? But LVN is out right now. It sounds like week to week, maybe next week, maybe the week following. But the bigger point is there's no reason to trade away talented players on your team right now in some sort of swap to get a different position. The reason I say that is A, I want the depth. B, I want the talent and the competition. C, again, you're competing right here and now. But more importantly, I get that Green Bay has traded away their first round pick over the next couple seasons. They've also traded away their 6th round pick in 2027. Those who don't know, you can trade picks up to 3 years in advance. You have 3 years of draft picks that you are able to trade away. The Packers have 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th round picks in 2026, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 7th round picks in 2027, and are expected to get a bunch of comp picks in 2027 as well, which is worth noting. And in 2028, they have their full complement 1st through 7th round. I'm not saying Goody should go completely all in and just complete LA Rams F them picks mode, right? That's not what I'm necessarily saying here. I'm just saying the type of player that Green Bay is probably going after at this deadline is probably a mid-tier player. At worst, you're probably trading away a 4th round pick. And if my choice is, a 2027 4th round pick, which you're probably going to recoup via comp picks eventually anyway, or a player right now, bye-bye 4th round pick. I'm not willing to give up the talent on this team right now. Now, could there be a change of scenery trade? Somebody like a Luke Musgrave, who isn't really doing a whole heck of a lot with the team right now, maybe for a different tight end. We'll talk about some options there. I'd be open to something like that. If there's a player that's struggling on the team and another team has interest, or they're not being used on the team and another team has interest, and I mean entirely used. We're talking like Kamal Haddon level here, right? If there's something like that, sure, I'd be willing to discuss that or look at that. But any of the players that, again, the Romeo Dobbs, the Dontavian Wicks, the Kingsley Enigbares, any offensive lineman, anything like that, I am completely and utterly out on and have no interest in trading or swapping players from one position to the other. Just no chance. No inkling of doing it whatsoever. I prefer they just keep the talent on this team. So that's number one. I don't think Green Bay is going to be selling away players, nor should they be. And I don't see any sort of player for player swap. If it is, again, maybe a change of scenery for something like a Luke Musgrave. What we're looking at here for Green Bay as we go through this are positions of need, right? There's some clear and obvious ones. There's a couple of special teams ones, punt returner, right? We'll talk maybe a little bit about that. Maybe a special teams ace with Nick Niemann going down. Maybe talk a little bit about that as well. The clear ones, though, are corner. That's obvious. There's Nate Hobbs, Carrington Valentine. You've got Javon Bullard playing in the slot, Keyshawn Nixon, and that's it. You'd love to see some sort of upgrade and getting a big-time legitimate corner, right? I think everyone would love that. Defensive tackle, you've got Devontae Wyatt back. Carl Brooks and Colby Wooden are playing pretty well. Even Warren Brinson looked good. Stackhouse has been okay. But would I, maybe one more rotational piece, maybe somebody that can upgrade from Stackhouse that can give you 20 snaps a game of especially really good run defense? Okay. I'd be open to listening to something like that. Offensive line, okay. If it was the right depth piece, maybe you wanted to add one more, sort of veteran in there, something like that, just to give you a little bit more depth or maybe a little bit more competition at guard. Okay, I could listen to that as well. Maybe a number 2 tight end. If you're not thrilled with Musgrave, maybe you want somebody who could block a little bit better. That could be something that you look at. Those are probably pretty much exhausting the list of things that Green Bay would potentially be looking at the deadline. Get maybe a blocking number 2 tight end, depth along the offensive line, better 5th defensive tackle, corner upgrade for sure, and then maybe some special team stuff, right? That I think is probably the exhaustive list of things that you're potentially looking at for Green Bay at this deadline. So that brings us to our list of 15 players. Couple things in advance. I went far and wide, meaning I checked everything here. I checked all of the teams that are basically out of playoff contention. What could they sell away? What could potentially be had? I looked at positions of need everywhere, from blocking tight ends to cover corners to you name it. I checked every single box. I looked at all the contracts, who's got expiring contracts, who could be, potentially somebody that you could look at in that regard. I looked at everything. If you're looking for a super sexy list of unbelievable players that Green Bay could trade for before the deadline, I'm afraid I've got some bad news. This is not going to be that list. This is a realistic list of players. There's some on here that I'm excited about, intrigued by, but for the most part, we're keeping this very realistic and at least in the realm of possibility. All right. The fun part is that we've got 4 former Packers on this list. Some kind of exciting. Some are going to make you maybe throw up in your mouth a little bit. That's kind of the fun part of the journey as well. But 4 former Packers. One of those Packers or former Packers is not Jair Alexander. I know he's been a healthy scratch and it has not worked out in Baltimore. I basically need to kind of just rest my case right then and there. Green Bay was ready to move on. Jair was ready to move on. They go in different directions and it really kind of hasn't worked out for either, which is maybe they get back together. Now, Green Bay was very much ready to move on. It's why I kind of did the whole 0.01% chance thing of like, this isn't happening, guys. They clearly were ready. They finally jettisoned him. They cut him. He goes to Baltimore, is all excited, and it's not gone well in Baltimore. He's never been the same since his string of injuries that he's had. I would be, of all the things that could happen between now and the end of the season, reuniting with Jair Alexander would be probably one of the most shocking things, especially if it were via trade. If he ended up getting cut, even then, I'd put it at like 1 in 100 at best. Maybe if you had a couple injuries at corner and Jair gets cut and you reconcile or something, maybe. And I mean, maybe. And that seems like a very slim maybe, but certainly nothing at the trade deadline. You're not going to cut Jair Alexander to then have another team sign him for $5 million just to trade something for Jair Alexander. It's just absolutely not happening. So I do not have Jair Alexander on my list of trade candidates. But like I said, I do have 4 former Packers that we'll go through today on this list. A couple honorable mentions before we get to the 15, and the 15 are in order from 15 to 1. Honorable mentions include Calais Campbell. I would love Calais Campbell. I would have him maybe even number 1 on this list. Calais Campbell has already talked about, I think he wrote something about how he doesn't want to go anywhere. He's not going to get traded. The Cardinals are going to keep him. It just seems like a no-go. I'll put him as an honorable mention because I think he would be a great addition to the team. And, every player can maybe be convinced or every team maybe can be convinced, but it does not seem like Calais Campbell is going anywhere and he wants to stay in Arizona. So my guess is he's going to be off the table, unfortunately. The next one is one that I thought was going to be very high on this list. And that is Denzel Ward, the corner for the Browns. It makes sense, right? Green Bay needs a star corner. Denzel Ward is potentially available. The Browns have no need for Denzel Ward right now. They can use as much salary cap relief as possible going forward because of their salary cap nightmare situation with Deshaun Watson. And the Browns are going nowhere this year. It makes all the sense in the world, right? And you could probably follow the blueprint of like the Marshawn Lattimore trade from a year ago, kind of like an apples to apples comparison. Couple things. Ward's contract is not great. It's not ideal. But the bigger thing is Ward's just not playing good football. I went and watched him. You can look at the PFF grades if you don't trust my analysis of it. It's just been really poor. This is the worst football that he's played. Could you decide that, hey, maybe it's a Cleveland thing? Maybe once we get him to Green Bay in the middle of a title chase that he'll play better? Maybe. But I still think you're going to have to pay for the name value of, a Denzel Ward, and other teams are going to be interested as well. And I just don't know the way that he's playing so far, if he actually adds anything to the team. And I don't think you're going to know for sure until you actually would get him in and see if he can play or not. But he has had his worst season and arguably as bad or worse than some of the corners for Green Bay so far. So it's just an exorbitant cost when you've already spent 2 first-round picks on Micah Parsons to go out and get a corner who's not playing well at all. If you told me that Goody made the trade for Denzel Ward, I would trust his eval and say, clearly he saw something that they think they can fix or that he's going to come to Green Bay and play at a higher level. cool, I'm in. I'd be excited. I'll be interested to see what it looks like. I would have a really hard time pulling the trigger, especially if it's anything on like an early day 1 or day 2 pick. I just can't do that for Denzel Ward at this point, not the way that he's playing. So that's why he's on the honorable mention list. Before I watched the tape, I thought he was going to be very high on my list. It made a lot of sense, but it just doesn't when you watch him play. The other honorable mention is Malik Washington, and or just in more general, a punt returner. I, again, searched far and wide for potential punt returners for this team. And here's the thing. There are good, like maybe Malik Washington could be had from the Miami Dolphins, right? Every punt returner, save for one that is worth anything of value, is a wide receiver. That one, which would make a great deal of sense for Green Bay, and also maybe would have been number one on my list if things went a little bit differently, is Marcus Jones, the corner/punt returner for the Patriots. For those of you who've been paying attention, he just signed an extension with the Patriots this week. Also, the Patriots are on top of the AFC East. It would make zero sense for them to trade him right now. But getting a good corner and arguably one of the best punt returners in the league, that would make a lot of sense. If the Patriots didn't re-sign him and if they were like, 1-6 or something, then, that'd be, again, he'd be the very top guy on my list. But he did re-sign. They're doing well, and it would make no sense for them to trade him. And every other punt returner is a wide receiver. And in a little bit, you're going to have Watson, Wicks, Reed, Dobbs, Golden, Savion Williams. And then I guess, you could do like Malik Heath on top of that as well if you want. But you're already going to probably have to like maybe release Malik Heath just to get the other 6. So are you going to trade for a wide receiver that's going to be your 7th wide receiver? Unless you're trading a wide receiver for that receiver, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And you're not giving up on like a Savion Williams. None of your top guys you're trading away. And even a Dontavian Wicks, like would a Dontavian Wicks for like a Malik Washington maybe make some sense? Maybe. Wicks is the better receiver, but Washington's a good kick returner and a great punt returner. He's already had a punt return for a touchdown this year, and at least you have faith he's going to catch it and do something positive with it. Maybe you could make that argument, especially with Wicks only having one more year left on his deal after this. But then what's the reason for Miami to do it? They're not competing now. They're not going to compete next year. I don't know that 1 year of Dontavian Wicks does anything. And also, he's hurt right now, which again makes it even more complicated. So, I wouldn't do that deal if I was Green Bay anyway, but you kind of get my point. It just gets really complicated. I just don't see them trading for a punt returner when it's a wide receiver and they just don't have the room in the wide receiver room. So that made it complicated as well. So it's my honorable mentions. One more super honorable mention. I don't mean to drag this out, I swear to you, but one more super honorable mention, Quinnen Williams. I love the idea of Quinnen Williams. And I mean, I love the idea of Quinnen Williams. Sometimes instead of looking for a corner out there where maybe you're not going to find the perfect fit, instead of upgrading there, just continue to upgrade what's already sort of a superpower and make it a super insane power, whatever, right? You've got Micah Parsons, Rashawn Gary, LVN's going to come back. Now imagine Quinnen Williams and Devontae Wyatt are in the interior of that defensive line. Holy crap. Good luck every other team in the league. Here's why I couldn't quite get there. He'd have a prorated 16.8 million basically remaining this year. So a little bit, like probably around like 10, 11 million. Probably a little bit like right around 10 million probably. He's got a $21.75 million contract next year, 5 million guaranteed, 25.4 million the year after that. He's playing good football and he makes all the sense in the world for collapsing the pocket while those edge rushers come off the edge, right? You have one guy just pushing the pocket back, Devontae Wyatt getting penetration, and then LVN or Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons screaming off the edge. Whew, does that sound fun? I wouldn't hate it. It'd be really fun. Just you're already going to get into a contract crunch here and a money crunch coming up. Adding another 22 million to the books next year and 25 to the books after that makes it really tough. The bigger thing here is the contract that they're going to want, or the trade that they're going to want. They've already said it's going to take an offer that they couldn't refuse to get him off the team. You're probably talking about more than like 2 second-round picks. And, are you going to trade away your next first round, 3 years from now? That gets really tight. Anything that Green Bay could offer, I just think somebody will outbid Green Bay. And I just don't think the Jets are ultimately going to deal him either. The other thing I'll just add really quick here, Quinnen's a really great run stuffer. So he adds that to the table as well. But he only has 19 pressures. It's not like only 19. That's a decent amount for an interior defensive tackle, but it's not anything crazy. And just to kind of put things in perspective, The platoon, if you will, of Carl Brooks and Colby Wooden kind of gets you Quinnen Williams. What I mean by that is Colby Wooden's been really good against the run. Is he Quinnen Williams good? No, but he's been pretty good. Meanwhile, Carl Brooks has 21 pressures on the season already. Quinnen has 19. I am not making the argument that Quinnen wouldn't be an upgrade. Okay. He clearly would. And if he can do both, right? He can run stuff and he can get to the quarterback, which is important. But on early downs, they're playing Colby Wooden, who's playing very well. And in some pass rush situations, they're playing Carl Brooks, who's getting, 21 pressures already. In the aggregate, you're kind of getting what you're hoping to get from Quinnen Williams. Not the same, not perfect, but probably not needing to spend, 2 second-round picks or whatever crazy deal it's going to make, and the 20 plus million per year that you're going to need to pay him the next couple of years. And even after that, when you do a trade like that, his agent immediately wants an extension, and then that gets into a whole nother set of issues. So I would love it. It would be a ton of fun. I couldn't quite get there with Quinnen Williams. All right. 15 players that I do think are, in the realm of realistic options for Green Bay. Number 15, corner, Cincinnati Bengals, Cam Taylor-Britt, 5'11", 200 pounds, 26 years old. He's got 1 year left on a $3.66 million deal, which again would be prorated. I'm just going to let you know now, all of these would be prorated through, the remainder of the season, right? He's got a 56.0 PFF grade on 269 snaps, 12 of 17 when targeted, 70.6% completion percentage for 166 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 2 pass breakups, 4 penalties, a 140.8 quarterback rating. His PFF grades the last 3 years before this year, 64.5, 64.5, and 63.6. Here's the thing. He hasn't been good, and he doesn't play special teams. And that's the big one that's going to make this tough. Is maybe you view him as a reclamation project. Maybe you view him as the next Rasul Douglas, where you can get him for basically nothing and bring him in and he can play well in Green Bay, like he's shown at times in Cincinnati. To me, the hard part again, the one thing I will say is that Kamal Haddon's not really playing special teams. So you could, swap out Haddon in like a 7th round pick maybe, or Haddon in the 6th for Cam Taylor-Britt. And you're getting the same level of special teams, and you might get a little bit more upside as a corner, somebody who can compete. I just don't think Cam Taylor-Britt is actually getting you any sort of upgrade, and you're probably going to have to put the time, effort, and energy in to get him playing better. By the time you do that, the season's over. He's an unrestricted free agent next year. So I just can't quite get there. I don't think it makes a ton of sense, but it has been rumored that Green Bay has called Cincinnati about their corners. Cam Taylor-Britt likely available. Whether or not he gets traded, we'll see. Could it be a fun project for Green Bay? Maybe. I just don't think it actually upgrades this team in any real significant way. Number 14 is Harrison Phillips, defensive lineman for the Jets, 6'3", 307, 29 years old. He's got 2 years left on his contract, a prorated 3.7 mil this year, and then a 7.5 million, what would basically amount to a team option next year, which, by the way, would not get picked up. He would get cut next year. So this is basically a 1 year remaining deal for Harrison Phillips. He's got a 63.2 PFF grade this year, but a 65.6 run defense grade. He only has 4 total pressures, 4 pressures on the season, but solid run defender. He would be an upgrade from Nasir Stackhouse, somebody that's a veteran, somebody that gets you some experience, somebody that gets you that run stuffing ability. And again, it's just an upgrade in what you're looking for from Nasir Stackhouse. Is it a good enough upgrade? I don't know. Future 7th round pick, something like that. Maybe. Is it maybe even worth the, a little over $2 million that it would cost you the remainder of the year? Not sure. If you have to release Nasir Stackhouse, is that worth it? Not sure. Does he play better with the Packers than he would have with the Jets because it's actually a competitive team? Maybe. Do I think he's an upgrade? Yes. Do I think he'd be a good 5th defensive tackle for Green Bay? Yes. I don't know. It doesn't move the needle all that much. I don't necessarily see it happening, but it would potentially be an option, and again, an upgrade over what Nasir Stackhouse brings you right now. Number 13, our first former Packer, and the first one that's going to make you probably just, get the little sickness to your stomach and maybe start to regurgitate some food up from earlier. Center from the New York Jets, 6'5", 310, 27 years old, Josh Myers. All right. Why, Andy? Why? For any of you who know me well enough, you know that I have been not a huge fan of the Josh Myers experience. Okay. But he must be playing much better with the Jets. He's not. He's got a 59.6 PFF grade, which is basically right around where he's always been in Green Bay as well. He has played 514 snaps for them. He's got 1 year left on his contract for a prorated $2.17 million. So a little bit over $1 million is what you're going to pay him the rest of this year. So why would I put him on the list? 2 reasons. Number one is I truly feel you can never have enough offensive line depth. And I don't really trust anything at center if Elgton Jenkins were to go down. I don't love moving Sean Rhyan to center, and I don't trust Jacob Monk yet in like a playoff sort of setting. Josh Myers would be a good stopgap if anything were to happen. That's one reason. It's not the main reason, though. The bigger reason is Elgton has not played well at center. Elgton's basically been at the Josh Myers level. We know Elgton can play very well at guard. At some point, and especially if maybe Sean Rhyan and Jordan Morgan just don't stick at right guard or you're not feeling great about it, is it a better lineup to maybe go back with Elgton at left guard, Myers at center, and then go at right guard with Aaron Banks at right guard, move him from left to right? Maybe. It just gives you one more option, is all I would say. It gives you some depth at center, a position where I don't love the depth right now. Again, you can never have enough offensive line depth. And we're talking like a, conditional future, like 2027 7th round pick here for Josh Myers. The Jets have really no reason to keep him at this point in time. So it adds a little bit to the team. It gives you a little bit more optionality on the offensive line, and it certainly gives you a little bit more depth. He knows the calls. He works with Jordan. It's not the worst idea in the world, even if it's not something that probably moves the needle in any significant way. All right, number 12 on the list, our second former Green Bay Packer. I bet you can't guess this one. I bet you can't guess which former Packer this is. It is linebacker for the Cincinnati Bengals, 6'3", 233, 30 years old, Oren Burks. 2 years, prorated $2 million this year, so about $1 million left. $2.2 million team option next year. 65.8 defensive grade on 121 snaps, which I basically don't care about, but a 73.9 special teams grade on 189 snaps and plays on basically every special teams unit. If Nick Niemann is out for an extended period of time, or maybe even out for the year, Burks would be a great replacement as a core special teamer that could also give you more as a linebacker if you actually needed somebody in a pinch. He's that perfect sort of like number 4, number 5 linebacker, kind of like an Eric Wilson, gives you a lot on teams, plays every special teams unit except for field goal protection, and again, is actually a pretty decent linebacker if you need him in a pinch. I don't hate it. Again, this is probably like a late 7th round pick, something like that for Oren Burks to get a good special teamer in and give you some more depth at linebacker. Cool. I'd be totally fine with that. Again, are these the sexiest moves in the world? No. Do I think they could add a little bit to the team? Yes. And any little incremental, add to the team could be important come playoff time. I'll just put it that way. So Oren Burks for like a 7th round pick, I could see making some sense as that new special teams ace for Green Bay. Hey friends, it's time to get our sleeper picks in for Packers Panthers this coming Sunday, noon in Lambeau Field. I'm excited for this game, and I'm going rookie heavy for my picks in this game. First of all, Matthew Golden. He's a little bit frustrated, hasn't been utilized more. 35.5 receiving yards. I'm going more than 35.5 receiving yards for Matthew Golden in this game. I think Matt LaFleur and this Packers offense will be a little bit more intentional in getting Matthew Golden the ball. I expect him to bounce back and have a big performance against Carolina. So Matthew Golden, more than 35.5 receiving yards. On the flip side, for Carolina, Tet McMillan, more than 51.5 receiving yards. So maybe a slightly high number here, but I expect Carolina is going to have to throw the ball to try to get back in this game at different points in this game. And I'm expecting that, once again, a big, tall, physical receiver on the outside is going to give Green Bay some troubles. And I'm expecting Carolina is going to try Tet McMillan early and often in this game. So Tet, more than 51.5 receiving yards. And then Ryan Fitzgerald, their rookie kicker, more than 1.5 field goals made. Whether he makes it or not might be a little bit more interesting, but I expect this is going to be another bend but don't break performance from Green Bay's defense, which is going to allow Fitzgerald to have multiple field goal attempts. And I expect that he's going to make at least 2 of those. So Matthew Golden, more than 35.5 receiving yards. Tet McMillan, more than 51.5 receiving yards. And Ryan Fitzgerald, more than 1.5 field goals made. The best part is that you can get a 100% match up to $100 by utilizing code PACKADAY over on Sleeper. Again, a 100% match by utilizing code PACKADAY over on Sleeper. Terms and conditions apply. Check those out over on Sleeper. And of course, they are available in over 25 states. So if you haven't checked it out yet, what are you waiting for? Get after it and get your Green Bay, Carolina picks in for this week. Number 11, our third former Packer. Another one that's going to, again, maybe make you a little sick to your stomach. Eric Stokes, corner, Raiders, 26 years old. 1 year, prorated $2.01 million for the remainder of this year. He's got a 66.4 PFF grade on 378 snaps. He's playing pretty good football. He's been thrown at 19 times, only 10 completions, 52.6%, 123 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. 3 pass breakups for Eric Stokes. Mr. could not get a pass breakup for like the last 3 years combined in Green Bay. Has 3 pass breakups with the Raiders. Only has 1 penalty and a quarterback rating of 72.9. He's played special teams in Green Bay. He knows the defense. He's a great locker room guy. Are you super excited about it? No, not at all. Is he playing some better football? A little bit. And when targeted so far, he's been good. Does it give you a little bit more competition at outside corner? Yes. Am I okay with that? Maybe. It's an interesting one. Again, I don't love it. I don't think it really upgrades you in any significant way, but it does give you a little bit more depth, does give you a little bit more competition. And, maybe, he's a former first round pick, I guess, for a reason. I don't know. This is one you have to really talk yourself into, I guess. I can understand the idea behind it, which is why he's on the list. Again, it's another one that I don't love a ton, but it's a little bit interesting, even if, maybe a little bit not plausible or not ideal, I guess is probably the better way to put it. But number 11, Eric Stokes. And now we get into a little bit, I think, more of like the fun range of 10 that kind of actually legitimately makes sense. Number 10, Jackson Powers Johnson, offensive lineman for the Raiders, 6'3", 325, 22 years old, only a prorated $1.2 million this year, $1.6 mil, $1.99 mil the year after that. A 63.7 PFF grade on 269 snaps this year. They've been playing him, I think, out of position at guard a little bit. And then 63.9 grade last year on 965 snaps, alternated between center and guard last year. Here's why I love this deal. Number 1, I think the Raiders are going to blow it, and I think they're going to trade him away. And I think he's really talented. I loved him as a draft prospect, and I think this is going to be one of those change of sceneries that actually goes very, very well. And I think he's going to find success on the next team that he goes to. It has been rumored that the Raiders are legitimately looking to potentially trade him and probably will get rid of him before the deadline. I would love to see Green Bay be the team that gets him. Number 2, we talked about it, can never have enough offensive line depth, versatility, guard and center. Number 4, we talked about it with Myers, right? Where I don't trust the center depth on this team right now. And again, number 5, it gives you that ability to potentially move Elton back to guard. If Powers Johnson comes in and looks like somebody who can give you a starting center right away, then you can look again at whether or not it'd be beneficial to move Elton to guard and maybe get a little bit of an upgrade at guard that way. The additional one, he's young and has 2 years left on his deal after this. You're probably having to move on from Elton Jenkins and his big contract next year. So even if he remains the center this year, you can sort of groom Jackson Powers Johnson the remainder of this year to be the successor to Elton Jenkins next year and be your starting center going into training camp in 2026. So a lot of reasons I really like that deal. Even if for the remainder of this year, he's like offensive lineman number 9, it's not the end of the world. I'd still take a flyer on it and see if you can't make something out of him, where I think there's a really talented player and it looks like the Raiders are just about to give up on him. Number 9 is the corner for the New Orleans Saints, 6 foot 199, turns 27 in December. By the way, I meant to mention with Jackson Powers Johnson, still only 22 years old. Lante Taylor, 27 in December. Again, corner for the Saints. He's got 1 year, a prorated $3.65 million contract remaining. 64.3 PFF grade on 474 snaps. Targeted 41 times, 28 completions, 68.3%, 280 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. 3 pass breakups, 1 penalty, a 111.8 rating. He plays primarily in the slot, has 222 snaps in the slot, but does have 172 on the outside. I'm intrigued. I like Alante Taylor. I think he brings the right demeanor. He's been okay. This has been one of the better years that he's graded out as. He has not graded out well in the past. I think this is just another version of Nate Hobbs, if I'm being honest. And I think Green Bay probably just says, we're going to run with Nate Hobbs and just hope he gets better rather than putting more money and more draft capital in this case into a player that is maybe just another version of Nate Hobbs. And again, the bigger thing for me is that Alontae Taylor is just better in the slot than he is on the outside. So for that reason, I don't love it. But the demeanor, the size, the versatility, the competition, all of it is there. And maybe Goody would pull the trigger, but it's at least an interesting name to note. And it does seem like there is some potential possibility that Alontae Taylor could get traded out of New Orleans before the deadline. Number 8. This is where we talk about the change of scenery trade. We're going to see this player this week. Tommy Tremble, tight end / H-back for the Carolina Panthers, 6'4", 250, only 25 years old, 2 years left on his deal, 2 cheap years. 57.2 PFF grade on 326 snaps, but a 62.3 run blocking grade. This is your change of scenery, Luke Musgrave for Tommy Tremble sort of trade. Do I think Musgrave is the more talented, just sort of higher upside player? I kind of do, but Tremble fits better in Green Bay. You can use him as sort of a fullback, H-back, tight end. He was a big-time player coming out of college, which everyone said this is like the perfect Matt LaFleur player. What they wanted to do with DeGuara, Tremble should be able to do better. I kind of like his fit more than what I like Musgrave's fit right now, and I think he'd be a unique chess piece for Matt LaFleur. It's an interesting one. I think Musgrave's probably a little bit more valuable, but it's one way to potentially change Musgrave into a player at the same position that might be a little bit more useful to you the remainder of this season. Number 7, same idea, potential change of scenery trade here. Michael Mayer, the tight end for the Raiders, 6'4", 256, still only 24 years old. He's got 2 cheap years left on his deal, 70.5 PFF grade, but only 158 snaps. He's been okay in run blocking, but this is a better receiving option. This is one where you probably have to do like Musgrave and like Musgrave in a 6th for like Mayer in a 7th or something like that, or Musgrave in a 5th for Mayer in a 6th. That's probably the deal you'd have to look at here. I think you have to kick in a little bit extra, but I think Mayer's a little bit better, and I think he fits better with Matt LaFleur. I think he'd give you a much better number 2 tight end option than what Musgrave has as well. So again, a potential change of scenery swap of tight ends, either Tommy Tremble or Michael Mayer. Number 6 is Reek Woolen, the corner for Seattle, 6'4", 210, 26 years old. He's got 1 year with a prorated $5.4 million. So again, between $2 and $3 million left this year. Only a 48.3 PFF grade on 381 snaps, 16 to 26, 204 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks, 2 pass breakups, 6 penalties, a 98.9 passer rating. This has been by far and away his worst graded PFF year. His 3 other years, 69.1, 67.1, and 67.9. Why I like it? He's played some good football, and I like his size. Green Bay has struggled with some of those bigger receivers on the outside, Marvin Harrison Jr., to some extent, Jamar Chase being I don't know if I would call him like a bigger wide receiver, but he plays bigger, right? Those type of receivers, we'll see what Teteroa McMillan does against Green Bay this week. It gives you another flavor of corner that you don't really have on this team right now. For that reason, I'm okay with it. Why I don't love it? A couple things. I think you're going to trade too much for the name value. He hasn't been good enough. If you're giving anything more than like a 7th round pick, it's not worth it. And some team's going to give Seattle more than a 7th round pick for Reek Woolen because of some of the success he's had in the past. So I just don't think the value's there. The other thing is he's arguably one of the worst tackling corners in all of football, despite being 6'4". And anytime you're 6'4", there's going to be limitations and change of direction. That's always an issue as well. Again, a unique piece, maybe somebody that you can put on some of those bigger receivers, maybe. Am I okay with it? Sure. But I think you have to have a really good plan. And again, I think the tackling issue becomes a much bigger deal the way that this Green Bay team likes to play football, rally to the football, make those tackles, and kind of keep everything in front of you. Not sure that Reek Woolen is a great fit for that style of defense. Number 5, get to our top 5. Tevin Jenkins, guard for the Browns, 6'6", 321, 27 years old, on a 1-year prorated $1.9 million contract remaining, has a 91.1 PFF grade. Unfortunately, he's only played 25 snaps, so it's a very small sample size. But his grades the last 3 years, 80.7, 72.6, 75.4. More importantly, his run blocking grades have been awesome, including grades of 82.2 and 87.8. The issue with Tevin Jenkins in his career is he's just not been able to stay healthy. He's been a good offensive lineman. The reason I like it is it gives you a potential good run blocker, more depth on the offensive line, competition for Sean Ryan and Jordan Morgan at the right guard spot, and somebody that I think could potentially give you that, sixth offensive lineman. We saw Pittsburgh have a lot of success with it. Jenkins has done a little bit of it already in Cleveland, being used in that role. I could see him being somebody in that like blocking tight end role, or that, sixth offensive lineman could really have some success. And maybe that opens up some things for Green Bay in the run game that they haven't been able to do with just their 5 standard offensive linemen, right? So some competition, some depth. It's a cheap enough deal. He's been good when healthy. He's healthy right now, and he hasn't got any opportunity in Cleveland. He's backing up Wyatt Teller and Joel Bitonio, two, really great guards. So he's not really having any opportunity to get any playing time anyway. I think it would be a good depth trade for Green Bay. Number 4, Shelby Harris, defensive lineman, 6'2", 288, also a Cleveland Brown. He is 34 years old, but he's playing good run defense. He's only got 1 year, a prorated $2.51 million remaining on his contract. 70.6 PFF grade, 72.8 run defense grade, 6 pressures only on the year, so that's not going to be his forte. 201 total snaps, but he is a veteran. He's a good run defender and would be a really nice upgrade from Nasir Stackhouse. I think you could kind of be that missing piece. I think he just adds a little bit of, veteran experience and a little bit of tenacity. I think he adds some real value to that defensive tackle spot. I think you solidify a group of Shelby Harris on, Warren Brinson's probably inactive still on most game days. So, you've got Brooks, Wooden, Wyatt, and Shelby Harris. That to me is a really, really strong rotation of 4 players on the interior, and probably, cuts down on some of the wear and tear on guys like Brooks, Wooden, and Devontae Wyatt, because he's going to be able to play a good chunk of snaps as that 4th defensive tackle. Number 3 is maybe the most interesting one. A player I loved in the draft in 2024, a player that picked off Jordan Love in 2024. Jerrion Jones, corner from Jacksonville, 5'11", 190, 24 years old, has 3 years left on his rookie deal, so 3 super cheap years. Why would they trade him? Well, first of all, he's got only a 46.4 PFF grade, and here's the big thing, on only 77 snaps. He's completely fallen out of favor in Jacksonville. He's been targeted 12 times, 7 catches, 82 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks, 1 penalty, no pass breakups, a 106.9 rating. But last year, in his rookie year, 69.0 grade on 699 snaps, 45 completions on 62 attempts, 457 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception on Jordan Love, 6 pass breakups, 2 penalties, an 86.6 rating. Now, this year, he's played 71 snaps on the outside, 5 in the slot, but last year, 625 in the slot, only 7 outside. And the year before, in his final year in college, he primarily played as a slot corner. The year before that, he primarily played as a wide corner. Green Bay would need to see him as a wide corner. They would need to give him that opportunity, but I loved him coming out. I think there's some really raw, natural coverability there. He does play some good special teams as well, so that's another bonus here. I think he'd be good competition and would be probably an upgrade at number 4 corner behind, above, Kamal Haddon and Bo Melton, and potentially give you some much higher upside, and even a player who could play right now with outside and inside corner versatility. He's fallen out of favor in Jacksonville. This could be something where you do look to trade. They've had some issues at tight end. You give a Musgrave plus a pick for Jerrion Jones. Could you swap? And I know it's a little bit tougher right now with Quay Walker being out. Maybe a Tyron Hopper was picked in the 3rd round of last year for a Jerrion Jones who was picked in the 3rd round of last year. Neither of them are getting playing time for their respective teams. Maybe Hopper gets a better chance at linebacker in Jacksonville. Maybe Jerrion Jones gets a better chance at corner in Green Bay. Something like that could make some sense. I would, again, rather just trade the draft pick away, whatever. But if he's truly fallen out of favor and Jacksonville's not going to play him, I think he'd have a better opportunity in Green Bay. Again, loved him coming out. Could make some sense as a potential competition piece at corner. It brings us to our final 2. Number 2, I think, is one that makes sense. Our 4th final Packer, and maybe the most realistic one on this list, at least of, again, number 1 might be more of a pipe dream. Rasul Douglas, 6'2", 209, 30 years old. You know who Rasul Douglas is. 1 year, 1.5 prorated left. It's like less than $1 million remaining on his deal this year. It's nothing. 75.5 PFF grade on 591 snaps, only had a 53.9 PFF grade last year. You guys probably remember in the offseason, I said, stay the hell away. Stay the hell away. He looked terrible. He looked washed. He looked 2 steps slower. The technique was bad. Everything was bad while trying to compete in Buffalo. And I wanted nothing to do with it. Went back, watched almost all of his coverage snaps from this year, and he looked a lot better. Looked at least a step quicker than he did. Looked like Green Bay Packer, Rasul Douglas. Did get beat for a touchdown deep on the right side. Forget which game that was and who he was going against. Got beat by Alec Pierce down the left sideline. I mean, Pierce just nuked him off the line of scrimmage. It's not perfect. The way he's played so far would be in the competition for the best corner in Green Bay right now. That's not saying much because Green Bay's corners have not played well. But, Rasul did play good special teams in Green Bay. He never got the opportunity to work, with Jeff Hafley. He had to work with Joe Barry. I could see it being a match. So far this year, he's been targeted 40 times, 23 completions, 204 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks, 3 pass breakups, 3 penalties, but a 79.6 quarterback rating. He's in the top, I think, 15, 20 of graded corners by PFF so far this year, and he looks a lot better. Miami has no use for him the remainder of the year. They're out of it. They're done. They just can their GM. They're on borrowed time, probably a head coach as well. Go get him. Bring him in. It probably now makes sense because he's been playing a lot better this year than he did last year. Get him to a contender in Green Bay with his knowledge of the team. The one thing we have to ask here is, was there a reason Green Bay moved on? Was there friction in the locker room? Did Rasul not want to be in Green Bay? Did Green Bay not want Rasul in Green Bay? We don't know those answers. If there was nothing and it was truly just, hey, we got a deal we couldn't refuse, and now you can give up like a 7th round pick for Rasul and bring him back to Green Bay. All right, cool. And then I could see them doing that. And they should probably do that. But if there's something more there, then it might be a non-starter. Number 1, last but not least, I think this is pie in the sky. I have heard that the Packers have called about Cincinnati corners. There was a PFF article that suggested that the Lions try to trade for this player. I cannot really see Cincinnati wanting to do this. DJ Turner, 5'11", 185, 24-year-old corner. Was a 2nd-round pick just a couple years ago by Cincinnati, and he's playing great football. He's got 2 years of super cheap contracts left. He's got a 75.5 PFF grade, an 80.0 coverage grade on 498 snaps, been targeted 35 times, only 16 completions, 45.7% completion percentage, 263 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, 9 pass breakups, 1 interception, and a 66.7 passer rating. If you wanted to say we need to go find a great corner and the Cincinnati Bengals were legitimately willing to have conversations, go get him. Absolutely. I'm all in. He makes the most sense of anybody on this list. If you're actually looking for a true, legitimate, big-time upgrade at corner, DJ Turner. My only stopping point here is I don't know why Cincy would deal him. I just don't. I get that they're maybe not in it this year. He's got 2 years left on his deal. And he's an extension candidate next year. It's not like they're this bottom feeding team forever. Once they get Burrow back next year, they're going to be a team that's looking to compete again. So I have a tough time believing that Cincinnati would do it unless he just, again, was we can't say no to that type of offer. And I can't see Green Bay doing that. So whatever Green Bay would be willing to give, I think Cincy just says no. And what Cincinnati would want in this scenario, I think Green Bay just says, yeah, I'm sorry. We would love to, but we can't do that. So probably pie in the sky. I think it's the best player, if he is out there, that you could potentially add to this team to really upgrade the corner position. I'm just not sure Cincy would have any real reason to trade him unless there was something on the back end and whatever. But that would be the player, if he becomes available, that they should go all in. Not all in's aggressive, but you get my point. Should really make a big time effort to bring to Green Bay and could actually upgrade this team in a significant way. If you're underwhelmed, welcome to the club. It's not a great trade deadline. It's just not. The teams that are looking to sell don't really have what Green Bay needs. The top players that are available out there are not corners, defensive tackles, offensive linemen. Teams are not looking to trade those players right now. And the ones that are available just aren't very good. And you're probably better off just keeping the players that you have and trying to upgrade the team that you have. If you're looking for Green Bay to make some huge splash or some major deal, it's really difficult to find one. It's really difficult to find one that makes sense. Again, the teams that are trading don't have players that the Packers really need, and the big name players just don't make sense for Green Bay at this point in time. And they already spent 2 first-round picks on Micah Parsons. So could one of these deals make some sense on a, again, a flyer type deal, the Jackson Powers Johnson one, maybe something like an Oren Burks to shore up the special teams, maybe a Cam Taylor Britt on a flyer that you could maybe improve similar to Rasul Douglas, something like that. Sure. I think they could make sense. I do think Rasul Douglas does make some sense, but I wouldn't hold your breath. I wouldn't get super excited. And if there is a major deal at the deadline, it probably is for another team. And you're just going to be more, crossing your fingers and holding your breath that they don't go to Philly or Detroit or San Francisco or Seattle or the Rams and make things even harder than they are right now in the NFC. If I had to say the likelihood of the trade, I think I'm probably down to about a 15% likelihood that Green Bay makes a trade, 85% no, 15% yes, but I'm sure Goody is going to be extremely active on the phones, trying to find something that makes sense. And if something comes up, hopefully he does, but it's got to be the right player for the right reasons. I couldn't quite find one that made 1A perfect sense. There is one DJ Turner. Again, I just don't see Cincinnati actually willing to part ways with them, but we'll see. We'll see if they make a move. Should be a fun trade deadline. Just don't know if it's going to be for Green Bay. But if there's anyone I'm missing, let me know in the comments. If there's anyone that I mentioned today that you'd be geeked out about, let me know in the comments. Curious your guys' thoughts. For me, the ones I would be really interested in, I think Shelby Harris makes a lot of sense. I would take a flyer on Tevin Jenkins. I think the change of scenery, the Tommy Tremble, the Michael Mayer for Musgrave makes some sense. And then I think the Jackson Powers Johnson is one that I kind of like the most based on what you could potentially use now, depth, versatility, maybe put him at center, maybe put him at guard, and then also a potential starting center for next year. I think that one actually could make a lot of sense. That's going to do it for me today, friends. Thank you so much for joining me. Appreciate you a lot. I know we went over a lot, but I took a lot of time to